reporting on the games you love by people who love to game. The MMO Reporter Network.
All right, we are going to move things on to surprise Guild Wars 2 news. Now, I was lucky enough earlier today to go and check out a preview for the content that's coming out today when the podcast goes live. This is why we didn't do a live recording of the episode, and we don't have any chat room or anything like that. We did have a three-pronged approach. I got 3 different demos, one on the Living World, one on PvP, and one on Fractals. Now, before we talk about that stuff, gentlemen, how excited are you about the new content? Are you gonna? We sort of talked about maybe doing Living World Season 3. What about the PvP, the Fractals stuff that's coming out? Are either of you interested in that?
Yeah. Actually, I'm looking forward to another good reason to get back into Guild Wars 2. It's just under the list. I mean, I've been finishing since the VR fever is dying down a bit for me. Not that it's just like the novelty is worn off. It's not just a peripheral. So now I think maybe I can go back to those old-fashioned retro games again. And Guild Wars 2 is a good one. I mean, I still like. I'm looking forward to all the new little things. Mm-hmm. I was just thinking. I mean, the people are always nostalgic about the way the games were before. I would really like to see some of those players who complained about it play the first versions of World of Warcraft or EverQuest or even Guild Wars 2 before they got good.
I thought you thought Guild Wars 2 was great right from the very get-go.
Actually, Guild Wars 2 was better in the start than it was at... Actually, I missed the old... I want to go back to the old Guild Wars 2.
All right, what about you, Bill? Are you going to jump into PvP or Fractals at all?
Yeah, absolutely. I actually spent quite a bit of time in low-level Fractals for a while in Guild Wars 2.
I remember that.
The PvP, I'm tentative about because I get very snippy about PvP that's imbalanced and not fun and that kind of thing. And that's all I've been hearing about Guild Wars 2 PvP for a while. It's been getting better with the attention that it's been getting, but I don't know. And maybe this is just a Bill thing and I need to not pay attention to the forums anymore. But we'll say a tentative yes. I'll be watching the reaction to Guild Wars 2 PvP.
Well, let's get into what I was able to see today. First, we're going to start by talking a little bit about the Living World Season 3 stuff. And if you remember, I'm going to try to be spoiler light. I will talk a little bit about some tiny little story moments that come up right at the very beginning. So, and it shouldn't really be a surprise, but I will be spoiler light. First, this does feature the return of the White Mantle. So if you remember some of the sacrifices that were happening way back in Guild Wars 1, you will, the part actually that the video is watching right now, where the battle that's happening and what's happening to the NPCs has to do with those sacrifices. So a very cool connection back to the first game. I was really excited to see that. And this new zone is kind of interesting. It's like a crazy landscape with a whole bunch of updrafts. And a cool thing I wanted to mention is they've got these new types of updrafts, which if you don't have the leyline mastery, they actually are like little roller coasters, they call them, where you hop on and it actually goes up and across and, different directions, and it has different turns in it. So you kind of jump onto this roller coaster of an updraft and get around the zone a little bit better. It's not a huge zone, not the same size as any of the Maguma zones or anything like that. And the events that are in it are focused on localized events rather than a big, huge zone-wide meta event, which is a good thing in some ways, but I liked some of the big meta events. We're not losing any of those in Maguma, so that's a good thing. But smaller scale, I think will fit with a lot of the player base. I've thought about this after the fact and didn't get a chance to ask, but it'd be interesting to see if any of the because I know that some of the was it the quests or something like that required the failing of some parts of events to be able to move things forward. If they change that so that wasn't required in any of the new events, but didn't get a chance to ask that. The little bits of the story that I did get to see, I didn't finish the full first episode on this preview. I will be jumping back in when this goes live, and I will be playing the crap out of this because I liked what I saw so far. So a cool new zone, some cool new meta events that are going on, and some new ways to to reward mastery track specializations. For example, at one point we saw during our playthrough a treasure mushroom, very similar to like a Diablo treasure gnome.
Oh, yeah.
Or whatever those things are. And so we had to kill it, and we got a whole bunch of loot. It didn't drop all over the ground like it does in Diablo 3, but that was really interesting. So very pretty zone. I was quite impressed with it. And it's very vertical, like all the Maguma stuff is, but much more traversable than I find Maguma is.
The one thing that I'm missing, and that's, I think I'm only now realizing what I liked about the original Guild Wars 2 and I'm disliking about Heart of Thorns, is the lack of the personal stories, because I loved going to a zone and seeing a village under attack, or the little stories that happen right in front of you. And that had immediate effect on what you were doing. And even though they were quite basic, it would usually defend an area or collect stuff, that doesn't matter. It felt like you were part of a little story there. And from Heart of Thorns, the new zones became very abstract. You're collecting stuff and bringing it to places to build outposts, and it doesn't feel, it feels gamey, and it does, not in the sense of rotting meat, but too much of a game thing. And it feels, it doesn't feel as much as a personal encounter with the living people in the world. So if they're changing that to be more like the old thing, that would be a big improvement in my enjoyment of the story aspect of the game.
And I'm sure this was just my skill as a player, but it's still a little bit. I always found Maguma quite challenging, even with the downgrade. This is still, I didn't die, but I struggled running around this area, not dying. Definitely favors grouping, as all this new content definitely does. So that was the living world. Any questions about that, guys?
When is the new raid coming?
Oh, they didn't talk about that.
I don't care
off
either.
Limits. Oh, yeah, I haven't done the raids either. Although I really want to. Looking for carry. Anybody want to carry? A few of us, Bill and I are North America, so get people to carry us through the raid. Thanks. Okay, bye.
We need one or two people to carry like four of us.
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was just saying it sounds. I'm happy that they're still adding landmass, even though it's small. Yep. I mean, and usually they reserve it for expansion, so I'm happy that maybe they're rolling out some new areas in the rest of the living story as well. Did you ask that?
No.
Or is this... you didn't ask that, or they're not doing that?
I didn't ask that.
Anyways. I'm curious if that... I mean, that could be... I mean, maybe the finale is opening up some new areas. Things like that would be good.
Okay, moving on to the PvP portion of it. Got to do a match of the new Conquest map, Capricorn. This one is kind of interesting because the backdrop of this fight is that a pirate ship is coming, the Capricorn, and you have the regular 3 conquest points, but the point in the middle, think of it kind of like the heroes in the Stronghold maps, will spawn at different intervals, and you can go in and get that, and if you cap it, then you order the cannons to fire on the ship, and your team gets an extra 25 points. And then if you do it again, your team gets 50. If you do it again, you get 75. But the cool thing is, let's say that my team, I'm on red team and Bill's on blue team. Red team caps it once, we get 25. We cap it again, we get 50. And then if Bill's team caps it, they don't get 75, they get 25. They start at the beginning of that sort of ladder up the bonus points. So that's kind of cool. Reuses a lot of the Lion's Arch assets in kind of an interesting way. And I was talking to some of the developers as we were fighting, and they were saying that a lot of the classes got some love for PvP with this particular update, especially Guardian apparently got a lot of love, as well as most of the other classes at least got a pass. Revenant was mentioned as well, and Necro. So I've got the biggest news though. The biggest news I think has ever come to Guild Wars 2 SPVP. You're going to be able to queue outside the mists.
Oh,
wow.
That's good.
That actually
Right?
is very big news.
Right? I mean, I'm talk about burying the lead, huh?
I thought you were being sarcastic, but that is massive. Like there's I mean it created a kind of an interesting community queuing up in the mist queuing area, and because there was always people there and people being weird, and you could there was a limited amount of things to do, but to be able to just do a little bit of mat farming or completing a heart or some quests or that kind of thing. I guess the downside is you're doing a world boss and all of a sudden 6 people just randomly disappear, and
it's a rapture.
That's right, because you're all gonna die.
Oh, have you guys seen The Leftovers?
No.
The Leftovers.
It's exactly that. It's actually
I've heard
so
of
far
it.
it's a pretty good show. It's basically a show set 5 years after an event where 2% of the world's population just disappears,
Oh,
and nobody knows why.
is it serious or comedy?
Very serious and not kid friendly.
It sounds a bit related to the 4400 or something like that. One of those mystery shows.
That's what I picked up first too, but for one thing, it's better. I didn't like the 4400 at all.
Oh, I'm watching it on Netflix, and I'm actually quite enjoying it now. But low expectations help.
Guild Wars 2. Guild Wars 2.
I actually watched Terra Nova.
So I'm going to move on now.
Oh, you know what's
and
good
we're going
is
to talk
Preacher.
about the Fractal.
Have you
demonstration
actually
that I had
seen
today. So
Stranger
it was
Things,
Really
the new
interesting
Netflix show?
to go into a good Fractal run. I haven't been in a Fractal in a long time, but I got to run through here, and it's a very cool looking Fractal. Using again, the common theme here between the PvP map and the Fractals, some assets being used from other maps or fractals or stuff like that. So they mentioned that as well with this one. So we're going to recognize some of the stuff if you've been doing fractals, but there's some new bosses. Liked the second boss. I liked all the bosses actually, but the second boss was really interesting in that it had a cool mechanic that you started off with the main boss and then some bots. I think it was 4 bots. And as you fought the main boss, then the boss would have a shield and you'd have to fight their bots. And there were 4 bosses, like one was Doc, one was Plink, one was Stabby or something like that. And then when we would kill one of all of those, because we'd have to kill those robots every stage when it would get through there. But the last one that would get killed would be dropped the next time, the next cycle. So if we had those 4 robots, we killed one, we fought the first 3 that we killed the last time. So every time you would leave the last one up that you wanted to go away. So you'd pick one. Okay, we want Doc. We don't want it because Doc had heals. We don't want Doc to come back, so we're going to kill Doc last on this round. And then so you'd kill. So that was an interesting fight. And then the last one was very discotheque-ish in that the floor was built in big grids, and then it would electrify. And then at different tiers it would scale, and you would also have stomping things from above come down and hit people.
So what tier is this fractal? Like, because every fractal, it seems to have a fixed value in the grid.
No, because you can do it at tier. You can do them at different tiers, right? So we loaded up this one at tier 1. right? So
yeah,
we
but
did
like within every tier, like tier 1 is like level 1 through 20, for example. And there's a big difference between level 1 and level 20 in that first tier.
Well, they talked about this one being able to tier, so it could be done at different tiers and it would scale up. So this particular fractal would scale.
But we
so it would have
don't
different
know
mechanics with the different bosses.
Okay, but we don't know if this is going to be like in the first 5 or in the last 5 of the tier.
No,
or
I don't
like
know.
That.
No, I don't know about that. Sorry, I could have looked that up because they've got a cool new fractal UI where you can actually see all the different fractals in a specific tier and the difficulty level, and if they're color coded for you can do this to you're gonna die a painful death. So that's really cool. A nice new UI for that. The other thing to mention in here, there's some hidden stuff as well, off the beaten path. If you're interested in looking at that, that will get you some cool lore as well as some nice achievements. So if you want to check that out, that would be cool. I want to do fractals now, guys. I really want to do fractals.
Yep, we should run them. They're very important for doing your legendaries too. So it's doubly thing. You're having fun and accomplishing things.
There we go. All right, so a couple quick things to mention too with Guild Wars 2. The trailer is out, but hey, by the time this show comes out, you will already have had this content launch, so don't worry about that. And Heart of Thorns is 50% off right now for a week, so this should still be a couple days left by the time this goes live. Thanks for watching the video, everybody. Don't forget to check out all the other podcasts at MMOreporter.com or by clicking on any of the links here. And please check out our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MMOreporter. Thanks, everyone, and see you in game.